You ever wonder what happens after you hit order now? Behind that simple tap, a stranger walks into the unknown. Dark alleys, silent lobbies, and doorways that were never meant to open. These aren't stories about bad tips or spilled drinks. These are real deliveries that crossed into something else. Something alive, something hungry, and once you hear them, you'll never order food the same way again. It started like any other Tuesday night. A drizzle wetting the sidewalks, low fog rolling between apartment blocks, and Dylan rubbing sleep out of his eyes after an afternoon nap gone longer than intended. He was a food delivery driver, gigging across 3 apps, Dash Eats, Grubmate, and Bite Ride. The money wasn't great, but it paid his rent, and with no real ambition beyond surviving the month, it was fine. Mostly. At 9:17 p.m., he got the ping. Dash Eats. Pickup, Golden House Walk. Delivery, 1424 Clearview Avenue. Customer note: please do not ring the doorbell. Leave food at the side entrance. That wasn't strange. Some people had sleeping kids, noise-sensitive pets, or just plain paranoia. Golden House was less than 2 miles from his apartment. Dylan threw on a hoodie, slipped into his beat-up Corolla, and was on the road in minutes, windshield wipers slapping rhythmically. He parked just outside the restaurant, shot the pickup confirmation through the app, and walked inside to the smell of soy sauce and deep-fried grease. "Order for Megan C.," he said to the woman behind the counter, whose bleached bangs swayed as she turned toward the pile of bagged orders. She passed him the bag with a tired smile. "Watch the soup. Lid's loose." Dylan offered a nod and returned to his car, placing the food carefully in the passenger seat. He tapped "On my way" in the app, setting the estimated arrival at 9:32. Clearview Avenue was about 10 minutes west, tucked into a strange part of the city where old brick homes met newer prefab developments. He didn't like that area. Something about it always felt hollow, but a job was a job. As he drove through the thinning mist, streetlights flickering in and out of view, he noticed something that hadn't occurred to him before. Clearview Avenue was dark. Not poorly lit, completely dark. The street lamps were off. The surrounding homes were dark too, as if the entire block had lost power. His first instinct was to check the app. The GPS marker was clear, 1424 Clearview, dead ahead. He turned onto the street. The homes passed like rows of hollow eyes. His headlights revealed wet hedges, cracked pavement, unmowed lawns. No traffic, no porch lights, no people. He parked in front of 1424. It was a 2-story house, Victorian style, with flaking blue paint and curtains drawn tight over its windows. The kind of house that looked abandoned until you saw the meticulously kept garden gnomes on the porch. Someone lived here, or pretended to. Dylan grabbed the bag, stepped out into the mist, and followed the narrow stone path to the side gate, per the note. It squealed when he opened it, hinges dry and rusted. The side yard was narrow, hemmed in by the house and a tall wooden fence. A single motion light blinked to life overhead, casting a cone of sterile white light and sending his shadow crawling along the siding. At the side entrance, a heavy wooden door with peeling black paint waited. No handle, just a keyhole and a sliding bolt. He set the food bag down gently on the small stool beside it, took a photo and uploaded it. As he was about to turn and leave, he paused. There was something strange. The silence. Not just quiet, total silence. No cars, no distant voices, not even the hum of a refrigerator from inside the house. He stood for a moment, listening, breathing, trying to pin down what exactly felt wrong. Then came the knock. Not from the door in front of him. From behind. He spun. No one there. Just the narrow path back to the gate, motion light still casting its ghostly glow. His heart ticked faster. He swallowed, laughed nervously under his breath. Then it happened again. Knock knock, this time on the window to his left. A small, frosted pane halfway up the wall of the house. He turned and saw a hand pressed flat against the glass, its shape distorted but clearly there. Long fingers splayed as if trying to push through. Then it vanished. Dylan stepped back instinctively, his heel knocking against the food bag. He nearly fell but caught himself. He stared at the window, pulse thumping in his ears. "Megan?" he called out. No response. And then, a voice, faint, coming from inside the wall. "Help me," it said, barely a whisper. He crouched and pressed his ear to the siding. Nothing. Maybe he'd imagined it. Maybe the voice was a trick of the wind, or the fog playing games with sound. He decided to leave. As he turned to go, the side door creaked open behind him. Just an inch. Dylan froze. The door had no knob, no latch. How had it opened? Then a soft creak came from inside. Floorboards, maybe. He took a step back. The food bag tipped over. He crouched to fix it, but before he could, something hit the inside of the door. A thud. Then a low scrape. Something heavy dragging across the floor. "Nope," Dylan muttered, standing up, backing away. He turned and walked fast, then broke into a jog, half tripping down the narrow side path toward the street. Behind him, the motion light clicked off. His footsteps echoed louder than they should have. He was almost at the car when he heard a whisper, right next to his ear. "Don't leave." He whipped around. No one. The mist felt heavier now, thick as soup. The car's interior lights blinked as he unlocked it, and he threw himself into the driver's seat, slamming the door shut. The house sat still. No movement. No open door. The app still showed the delivery in progress. He closed it. He didn't want the money that badly. But as he put the car in gear, the radio came on by itself. Static at first. Then a voice. Soft. Female. "You saw me." He shut off the radio, but the screen stayed lit, flickering faintly. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You weren't supposed to turn around." He left Clearview Avenue without looking back. The next night, another order came through. Dash Eats. Different name. Different restaurant. Same address. He declined. But the next night, it came again. Grubmate this time. Then Bite Ride. All for $1,424 Clearview. He emailed support. They claimed no such orders had been sent to him. No such address was listed in the system. Dylan stopped driving nights, then stopped delivering altogether. But sometimes, when he passes that part of town, his phone buzzes, and the address flashes across his screen. Even when he's not using any app. Dylan tried to forget. It wasn't easy. For weeks after that night, he found himself plagued by a restlessness he couldn't name. Even without the delivery apps open, his phone would buzz in the early hours of the morning, 2:13 a.m., 3:47 a.m., never the same time twice. Always silent. No message. No missed call. When he checked his notification history, there was nothing. But he knew what he had seen, knew what he had heard. That voice like breath on skin. That distorted hand on the window. And most of all, what had whispered to him just before he ran. "Don't leave." He kept replaying it, wondering if he had misheard. But each time, the memory only became sharper. He could feel the cold air clinging to the skin of his neck where the whisper had coiled. He stopped leaving his apartment after dark. Even grocery runs became 6 a.m. affairs. He took a part-time job stocking shelves at a discount store nearby, mostly working morning shifts. Less money, less isolation, and no deliveries. He didn't even uninstall the apps. He was too afraid to. Some part of him felt that if he severed the link entirely, it might make things worse. Like a rope holding something back was barely tied, and cutting it would invite something to tumble through. Still, the pings came. Not every night, but enough to keep him on edge. One afternoon, about 2 months later, Dylan was on his way back from the store when he spotted it. The car. His car. It was unmistakable. Same dent in the passenger side door. Same chipped paint on the hood. But he was already in his car, driving it. This other one sat across the street, parked just outside a shuttered florist shop. Front windows clouded from the inside with old condensation and grime. He slowed. That wasn't just his model, it had his license plate number. He parked at the curb, heart thumping. Every part of him said keep driving, but the rational part, what was left of it, needed to see. He stepped out and crossed the street, mist collecting in his breath. The windshield was too dirty to see through clearly. He cupped a hand against the glass and peered in. The driver's seat was empty. So was the back. But in the passenger seat, right where he usually placed deliveries, was a white plastic bag, tied neatly at the top, a receipt stapled to the side. His name was on it. Order for Dylan M. Pickup. Golden House Walk Delivery. 1424 Clearview Avenue. Note: we're still hungry. He stepped back so fast he nearly tripped over the curb. When he looked up, the car was gone. No sound. No engine. Just gone. He turned around in the street, spinning in place, scanning for tail lights. Nothing. He was completely alone. That night, he dreamt of the door again. Not the front one, but the side entrance. It stood open in the dream, hinges yawning, and a dark corridor stretched out like a throat inside. In the dream, he walked toward it against his will, feet dragging like they didn't belong to him. He stepped through and immediately felt wetness. Not water, but thick, like humidity with weight. The corridor gave way to a room with no furniture, just wallpaper peeling in strips, sagging from corners like wet skin. And in the center, a table. On it, a single takeout bag. His name on it. He turned to run, but there was no door anymore. Only the voice. We're still hungry. He woke in a cold sweat, the sheets tangled around his legs like restraints. His phone buzzed. It was 3:01 a.m. No notification, just the screen blinking once. Then again. Then a third time. 3 blinks. Knock. 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 He threw the phone across the room. By now, Dylan wasn't even sure if he was awake when he saw the things he saw. He began questioning the nature of his own perception. Had he slipped into a psychotic break? Was there a logical explanation? A drug, a prank, a long, sustained hallucination? But then there was Kaylee. Kaylee was a former coworker from the stockroom job. They'd gone on 2 dates before things fizzled. No real chemistry. But they'd stayed on friendly terms. She had always struck him as rational, grounded. Exactly the kind of person who would not entertain the delusions that had begun to shadow his life. And so, one night, when he was barely keeping it together, he told her everything. They were sitting in his apartment, half a pizza between them, soft jazz playing from a Bluetooth speaker. The lighting was low, warm, comforting, normal, until he opened his mouth. He expected her to laugh, or to awkwardly shift the conversation, maybe ask if he needed help. Instead, she went pale. "Clearview?" she asked, her voice thin. He nodded. "What house number?" He told her. Kaylee sat back on the couch and covered her mouth. "My cousin, Micah. He used to deliver too. For Bite Ride." That was the last address he ever accepted. Dylan stared. What happened to him? She didn't answer right away. She looked at the ground, and he realized her hands were shaking. They found his car 3 towns over. Doors locked. Food still in the bag on the seat. But his phone was still active. It kept pinging towers near Clearview. For days. She wiped at her eyes. Cops told us he probably ditched the car and disappeared. Ran off somewhere. Mental breakdown. That sort of thing. But he wasn't like that. She took a deep breath. The weird part? They said he took one last photo on his delivery app. You know, the kind you take to show the food's delivered. Dylan nodded. They wouldn't show us the image. Said it was corrupted. But one of the cops, off the record, said it was the creepiest thing he'd ever seen. Dylan's heart beat so loud it made his ribs ache. What was in it? A table. Inside a room. The food bag. And someone sitting at the table. Just watching. He couldn't speak. The cop said it looked like Micah, but his face was wrong, like it had been stretched. Dylan stood up and walked to the kitchen sink, splashed cold water on his face. His stomach was doing somersaults. felt like something was crawling just beneath his skin. When he turned back, Kaylee was looking at his phone, her face frozen. "Did you get this text?" she asked. He walked over. The screen was on. A new message, unknown number. "Bring her." He yanked the phone out of her hand and deleted the message. But even after it was gone, the screen stayed on. Black background. White blinking cursor. Like it was waiting for input. Kaylee grabbed her coat. "I have to go," she said. He didn't stop her. He wanted to, but part of him felt it wouldn't matter. That night, the dreams returned. But this time, it wasn't just the house. He was in the car. That car. The one with the bag in the seat. The world outside the windshield was just fog. No roads. No buildings. Just fog. And in the back seat, someone breathing. Loud. Raspy. He didn't turn around. He couldn't. But he felt a hand rest lightly on his shoulder. Then the voice. "Drive." The hand remained on Dylan's shoulder for what felt like hours. Though in the dreamtime haze, it may have only been seconds. He never turned around. His body wouldn't let him. The voice that had spoken, "Drive," wasn't just issuing a command. It was binding him. Like the syllables themselves were leashes fastened to his spine, directing every breath. So he drove. No steering wheel, no pedals, just motion. The fog outside never cleared, but the car kept gliding forward like it had a destination all its own. At some point, the lights of a house came into view. The house. 1424 Clearview Avenue. Even in the dream, he recognized it not by its shape or the address, but by the feeling. That same dense, wet pressure behind his eyes. The same tension crawling up his neck like millipedes. The vehicle slowed on its own and stopped. The passenger side door clicked open. Then a hand. Slender. Pale. Pushing the door wide. No one got out. No one got in. But the door remained open, as though awaiting a delivery. He woke up screaming. Sweat soaked his sheets. His lamp had been knocked over. His phone was face down on the floor, screen lit. A new text. ETA 3 minutes. No sender. No app notification. Just the message sitting there. He threw the phone across the room again. This time it didn't just land. It bounced and slid into the wall hard enough to crack the drywall. The screen went black. But a moment later, the phone rang. Its glow lit up the shadows from where it had landed. It was still powered off. The ringing grew louder. Not the ringtone, an actual bell. Mechanical. Like a hotel front desk bell. Sharp. Shrill. Then, a knock at the front door. 3 soft taps. Then silence. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. His apartment was on the 3rd floor. Nobody could have gotten in without buzzing from the downstairs entrance. His door had 3 deadbolts and all were locked. But the knocks kept coming. Another series. Harder this time. He rose from the bed and crept toward the door barefoot. His legs trembling so badly it felt like they'd give out any second. He looked through the peephole. Nothing. He stood there paralyzed. Then, from behind him, inside the apartment, another knock. This one came from the sliding closet door in his bedroom. He turned and ran. Not even to the phone. Just to the bathroom. Locked the door. Sat in the tub. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, he packed a bag. A real one. Not a delivery bag, not a backpack. A duffel. Clothes, toiletries, burner phone, some cash. He left his phone on the floor, still cracked and glowing faintly like an eye half open in a coma. He took a bus out of the city. Slept in motels. Changed locations every night. No credit cards. No calls. For a week it worked. He felt like maybe he was pulling himself back from the brink of madness. The fog in his head began to clear, until he found the receipt in his bag. Folded neatly between 2 pairs of socks. Golden House Walk. Order for Dylan. 1424 Clearview Avenue. The food item. 1 return. He burned the receipt. But the next morning another was there. Same place. Same details. Different handwriting. It never stopped. Every motel. Every rest stop. Once, even inside a sealed bottle of water he bought at a gas station. The receipt curled up inside like a dead insect in amber. One night, he checked into a cheap roadside inn in a town so small it didn't even have a supermarket. Just a diner, a hardware store, and 2 gas stations that might have been owned by the same guy. He used a fake name, paid cash. The clerk, a man in his 60s with a squinting left eye, handed him the key and looked at him a little too long. "Don't do deliveries around here," the man said. Dylan's mouth went dry. "Why?" The man shrugged. "Every few years, one of your kind disappears. Always someone who works nights. Always someone who's made a stop in Clearview. You know that street?" "Know of it." The man nodded to an old bulletin board behind the counter. Yellowing flyers, faded photos. 3 drivers in the last decade. 1 lady last year. Smelled like oil and soy sauce when we found her car. Dylan didn't ask where they found the car. The man leaned in close. "If you ever get the address again, throw the phone out the window. Doesn't matter the app. Doesn't matter the system. They'll find you if you deliver." Dylan didn't sleep that night either. That same night, 2:59 a.m., the motel landline rang. He didn't answer it, but someone did. There was no one else in the room. He heard the click of the receiver being lifted. Then the sound of chewing. Wet, rhythmic, sloppy. Then a voice clearer than ever. "We're not done." He fled the room without packing. Didn't even put on shoes. He ran until sunrise, through dry grass and empty roads, until his lungs burned and his vision blurred. The next day he broke. He called Kaylee, told her everything. Told her to meet him 2 towns north, near a diner off the highway. She agreed. Her voice was tense but steady. She said she was tired of being afraid. She wanted to help. They needed to understand what this was, who was doing it, if it could be stopped. When they met, he barely recognized her. She'd lost weight, looked over her shoulder constantly, said she hadn't slept through the night since their last conversation. She'd done some digging, and what she found chilled them both. There had been over a dozen disappearances across 3 counties. All food delivery drivers. All had been last tracked near or en route to one street, Clearview Avenue. Sometimes the apps scrubbed the records. Sometimes even the companies claimed no data existed for the delivery. But old backup logs on dark web forums, leaked databases, backdoor dev tools, they all told a different story. Orders kept going to that house. Even now. Even when it wasn't listed on maps. Even when no power records existed for that property. Even when the deed showed the house had been condemned since 1998. "Someone, or something is ordering," Kaylee said. "And someone's answering." Dylan looked up from the diner table. "We need to go there." She nodded slowly. "They already know we're involved. We might as well stop running." Dylan opened his duffel and pulled out the crumpled receipt that had appeared again that morning. He smoothed it out on the table. Golden House Walk. Order for 2. ETA, 8:44 p.m. They checked the time. It was 7:31. They drove in silence. The sun dipped below the horizon like a coin sliding out of reach, and the world dimmed into that colorless gray hour where everything feels just a little off. Dylan gripped the wheel tighter than he needed to. Kaylee sat beside him, arms folded, her face unreadable. Neither of them asked if this was a good idea. It was far too late for questions like that. At 8:17 p.m., they crossed into the edge of the old district. The streets narrowed. Streetlights flickered or remained stubbornly dark. The fog wasn't thick yet, but it was gathering. You could feel it in the air, like the pressure before a thunderstorm. When the car turned onto Clearview Avenue, both of them instinctively held their breath. It was just as Dylan remembered, wrong. Not overtly sinister. No blood on the walls, no ominous symbols. Just vacant. Unnatural. Like the street existed between the folds of the world. A pocket of quiet that had been forgotten by time. Most of the homes were dark. Curtains pulled tight. One had boards nailed across its windows. Another had weeds taller than the porch railings. But the house they were looking for stood unmistakably at the center of it all. 1424. That strange, decaying blue, the flaking paint, the tidy line of gnome statues still guarding the porch like nothing had changed. Dylan slowed the car to a stop just across the street. The porch light blinked on. Neither of them had touched a phone. The app wasn't running. And yet, it was expecting them. Kaylee exhaled shakily. We walk from here. Dylan opened the glove box. Inside was a small utility flashlight, a box cutter, and a pack of salt he had bought weeks ago after reading about folklore protections online. Desperate measures. Maybe useless. But he grabbed them anyway. As they crossed the street, their footsteps made no sound. The fog had deadened everything, like a blanket draped across the world. They mounted the porch steps slowly. Each creaked in a way that sounded rehearsed. Rehearsed. That word stuck in Dylan's brain. Like this had happened before. Like the house was watching a play it had seen 1,000 times. Waiting for the cue. He approached the front door. A sign hung there. Delivery side entrance. Kaylee pointed. That's where you went last time. He nodded. I didn't go in. They moved toward the gate. The latch was rusted, unmoved since his last visit. Took some effort to push it open. The motion light above the path blinked on. Then off. Then on again. It flickered like it couldn't decide whether to warn or welcome. They reached the side door. It was ajar. Neither of them had touched it. Inside, darkness. But not just a lack of light. An absence. A place where light had no permission. Kaylee pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. It barely pierced the gloom. The beam felt like it dissolved at the threshold. Still, they stepped in. Inside was a narrow hallway, dust-coated and lined with rotting wallpaper. The smell was immediate: mildew, damp wood, and something faintly meaty. The walls were covered in old food delivery bags. Hundreds of them, stapled like trophies. Each one with a name written in pen across the top. Many had faded. Some were fresh. Dylan's eyes locked on one. Dylan M. Another. Kaylee R. Her breath caught. They knew. All along. A groan echoed from deeper in the house. It didn't come from above or below. Came from everywhere. Like the house itself was breathing. They pressed on. The hallway ended in a kitchen, or what had once been one. Cabinets were open, some doorless, others sagging with hinges rusted to nothing. A fridge buzzed in the corner, though no power should have been running to this place. Its door hung slightly open. A dim blue light leaked from inside. Dylan stepped closer and pulled it open. Inside, another delivery bag, perfectly clean, steam rising as if it had just been packed. He reached for it, then hesitated. The receipt. It said, "Final course." Kaylee pointed toward the dining room doorway just ahead. I think that's where it ends. They walked together. The dining room was pristine, impossibly clean. The table had 2 place settings. Silverware polished to a mirror shine. Wine glasses filled with a dark liquid that looked more like ink than wine. And candles, all lit. No one else was in the room, but the chairs were pulled out, waiting. The bag in Dylan's hands began to rattle. He dropped it. The knot at the top untied itself. From inside came 2 wrapped entrees. And a third item, a flat, black object. A photograph. Kaylee picked it up. It was the picture taken from a delivery app, angled downward, showing a delivery placed at a door. But it wasn't the outside of a house. It was this room. And in the image, they were seated at the table, eating. She dropped the photo like it burned her. Dylan grabbed her hand. We need to go. Now. But the house disagreed. Every window slammed shut. One by one. Curtains dropped like stage props. The door they'd entered through slammed and locked. From upstairs, a sound. Footsteps. Not fast. Not slow. Measured. Like something descending deliberately. Kaylee backed toward the table, grabbing a candlestick. Dylan drew the box cutter from his jacket, flicked it open, felt pitiful. The sound reached the base of the stairs. A figure stepped into view. It was tall. Its face was veiled in a sheer delivery bag. The plastic melted into the shape of a human visage. But wrong. Stretched. Mouth too wide. Eyes that didn't blink, just twitched. Jerked. Like marionette strings pulling the muscles behind them. Its clothes were stitched from the uniforms of various delivery services. Name tags layered like scales. Dash Eats, Bite Ride, Grubmate, even brands that had shut down years ago. Kaylee whispered, "What is that?" Dylan didn't answer. The thing tilted its head. It raised a hand, held up a phone. Their photo appeared on the screen, them right now in this room. Then the voice from the dream. "You delivered yourselves." It lunged. It moved like a glitch in a video game, blinking from point to point without covering the space between. One moment it was across the room, the next it was halfway to them. Candle flames flickering violently as it passed, leaving a gust of freezing air in its wake. Its delivery bag mask crinkled and flexed with each motion, the plastic wet with something that looked a lot like condensation, or maybe sweat. Kaylee screamed. Dylan stepped in front of her, slashing the box cutter in an arc. But the thing didn't flinch. It stopped inches away from the blade, staring at him with those jerking, mechanical eyes twitching behind the semi-translucent film. Then it spoke again, but not with its mouth. The voice came from every speaker in the room. The smart speaker by the counter. A phone that wasn't theirs. A speaker mounted in the ceiling that hadn't been visible before. All of them played the same distorted sentence. "Your final tip has been accepted." And then it opened its mouth. No tongue. No teeth. Just more delivery bags, coiled and glistening, pouring out like intestines made of plastic. Dozens of them spilled onto the floor, writhing and squirming like worms, some still stapled with customer receipts. One brushed Kaylee's ankle and she screamed again, kicking it away. Dylan grabbed her hand. "The salt!" he shouted. She fumbled in her coat pocket, pulled out the salt packet. He tore it open and scattered a wide arc in front of them. The thing stepped forward and stopped. His body convulsed. The delivery bags hanging from its mouth writhed harder, snapping backward as if recoiling from an invisible fire. It shrieked, not just in pain, but in rage. The shriek vibrated through the walls, the floorboards, the air. A sound that made the fillings in Dylan's teeth ache. Paint cracked. Lights shattered. The house groaned as if its bones were being broken from the inside. But the thing didn't cross the line of salt. It stood just beyond it, twitching in fury. Then slowly it receded, step by step, back into the hall, back into the shadows, until the candle flames calmed, and the house seemed to exhale. But the front door remained locked. Kaylee's voice was shaking. "There's got to be another way out." Dylan looked around, his ears still ringing from the scream. Then he noticed it, above the fireplace, a picture frame. Inside wasn't a photo. It was a live feed of them, from above, like a security cam showing a bird's-eye view of the table, the room, their every move. He could even see himself staring up at the frame. Behind them, the shadows twisted slowly, almost playfully, almost expectantly. Kaylee pointed at the frame. "What if it's two-way? What if they're watching?" Dylan looked closer. The frame shimmered. Then the view changed. Now it showed a different room. Same wallpaper, same table, but with two bodies seated. Not moving, not breathing. One of them wore Dylan's hoodie. The other had Kaylee's leather jacket. Both had bags tied over their heads. Delivery bags, stapled with the words, "Delivered." Kaylee backed away. "This isn't just some haunting. This is a feeding." Dylan turned. "What?" "Think about it," she said, eyes wide. "It wants us to complete the delivery. Wants us to sit, to eat, to accept the final course. That's when it takes us." Dylan shook his head. "Then we don't sit." "No," she said. "We burn it down." They returned to the kitchen, ripped open drawers, found old matches, a half-used bottle of lighter fluid tucked behind dusty canned beans. Everything reeked of damp and decay, but the fluid still sloshed. Kaylee soaked the curtains, the old wooden chairs, the molding around the baseboards. Dylan poured a line from the hallway to the dining room. At the threshold of the table, the bagged meals were still there. Still steaming. Still warm. Kaylee lit the match. Behind them, the house screamed again. The salt line evaporated as flames raced up the walls. The air thickened, filled with oily smoke and the stench of plastic melting into paint. The thing returned. From the hallway, it stepped through the fire unharmed. But slower now, its movements uncertain. The delivery bag face began to melt, exposing what lay beneath. Not a person, not a creature, but an absence. The suggestion of a face. Like the memory of someone you almost recognized on a street corner before they vanished. His mouth opened again, no sound this time. Only a static hum, growing louder and louder. The windows buckled inward. The ceiling cracked. Dylan and Kaylee ran for the back of the house. A small utility room had a window painted shut. Dylan threw his shoulder into it once, twice, until the glass gave way. Kaylee scrambled through first, scraping her arm on the broken sill. Then Dylan. As he climbed through, he heard the voice again. Clear this time. Calm. We'll reorder. The house exploded in a bloom of heat and splintered wood behind them. Not a Hollywood fireball, more like a collapse, like something giving up. Like a predator that had been wounded just enough to retreat. They hit the grass hard. Rolled. Coughed. Watched the house smolder. Not burn, not fully, but recede. Like a paper model catching flame around the edges. Curling into ash and sinking inward. By the time the fire engines arrived, there was no house left. Just a crater filled with wet wood, blackened lawn, and something that looked like dissolved plastic. The firefighters claimed there had never been a structure there. The official records said the lot had been empty for decades. No one could prove anything. But the receipts still came. Dylan kept them in a locked box now. One for every week. None had timestamps, just the same address. And a message that changed slightly each time. Order received. Order accepted. Order processing. And the most recent, delivered while he slept. Order en route. The town of Glenwood had always been quiet. The kind of place where people waved from porches, kids rode bikes without fear, and front doors stayed unlocked until the last light faded. It was unremarkable in the way so many small towns are, carved into gentle hills, wrapped in meandering roads, and kept afloat by a few dozen local businesses and the stubbornness of those who had never left. Caleb wasn't from Glenwood. He'd drifted in from the coast 5 months earlier after his last gig dried up, broke and hollowed from the collapse of his second restaurant job in a year. Cooking was supposed to be his passion, but kitchens had grown sharp-edged and suffocating. Tempers flared too easily, hours bled together, and managers squeezed every drop of energy from him until he forgot why he'd started in the first place. So he'd left. Not for anything grand, just for different. Glenwood was quiet, inexpensive, and more importantly, anonymous. He found a furnished basement suite on the edge of town, snagged a used hatchback with the last of his money, and started delivering for Quick Crate, the latest delivery app promising fast meals and steady income. The app was new, still in beta in the region. That meant light competition and more gigs, especially for people like Caleb who signed up early and were willing to cover weird hours or longer distances. The pay wasn't amazing, but it was predictable. And predictability had become a kind of lifeline. It was a Friday night when things began to shift. He'd already completed 8 deliveries by 8:45 p.m. and was considering logging out for the night. His stomach growled with the absence of dinner, and the cold creeping in through the window seals reminded him that his little rental didn't come with insulation worth anything. Then came the ping. Order #99184. Pickup, Rose's Deli. Delivery, 14 Sycamore Lane. He hesitated. Not because of the distance, it was only 8 minutes from the deli. And not because of the customer note, which read simply, use side path. Leave bag at garden gate. That was standard. It was the address. Sycamore Lane. He had never driven it before, though he had seen it in the app's coverage map. A narrow line at the edge of town, tapering off where the GPS became unreliable. Delivery drivers had warned him about certain black holes in rural routes. Places where signals vanished, pings dropped, and the app seemed to forget you existed. But it wasn't just technical glitches. He remembered a passing conversation at the Glenwood Cafe during one of his off days. A few locals, older guys with weathered hands and nicotine voices, had been trading stories. One mentioned Sycamore Lane with a curl of his lip. "Place is wrong," he'd said. "Built over something. People vanish. Not the kind of vanish where you leave town. The other kind." The others had chuckled, but not a one had disagreed. Still, that was just town talk. Caleb shook it off and tapped accept. His phone blinked once, dimmed, then returned to normal. Rosa's deli was quiet when he arrived. The usual bell didn't jingle when he stepped in, and Rosa herself wasn't at the counter. But the bag was there, paper, sealed, receipt stapled to the top. He grabbed it, muttered a thank you out of habit, and turned to go. The door wouldn't open. It wasn't locked. The knob turned. The mechanism moved. But the door wouldn't open. He rattled it twice. Then Rosa appeared from the kitchen. "Don't let the wind get in," she said quietly. He stared. "It's not just a draft," she interrupted. "Happens when you pick up for that address." She crossed the floor and nudged the door with her elbow. It swung open instantly, no resistance. Caleb stepped out, unsettled. He didn't remember placing the bag in the passenger seat. But when he glanced over after pulling out of the lot, it was already there. Still sealed. Still steaming. The GPS was jittery on the way to Sycamore. The map rotated twice, zoomed in and out, then stalled. The voice assistant, usually chipper, started stuttering. "Head. Continue. Turn. Recalc. He killed the voice and drove the rest of the way from memory. The town thinned out. Houses became scarce. Lights disappeared. Sycamore Lane branched off from an unmarked access road, hidden behind a row of tall pines that looked more like sentries than trees. As soon as his tires rolled onto the lane, the fog rose. Thick, sudden, like curtains dropping. His headlights barely reached beyond the hood of the car. The trees grew denser, the road narrower, and the stillness heavier. Even the engine's hum felt like a violation in this place. After what felt like miles, but couldn't have been more than 2, the mailbox appeared. 14 Sycamore Lane. Old, rusted, covered in a film of sap and black mildew. No house number, but the app vibrated once and displayed a simple message. Arrived. Do not approach the front door. Caleb sat for a second. The customer note had said garden gate. He scanned for it, squinting through the windshield. Then he saw it. A wooden arch, half choked by vines, sagging slightly under its own weight, with a narrow stone path curling beyond it into darkness. He got out, food bag in hand. The air was wrong. Not just cold, but pressurized, like standing inside a vacuum. He moved toward the arch. His footsteps crunched softly against loose gravel. The fog made it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. As he passed under the arch, the vines rustled. Not from wind, but from movement. He froze, listened. Nothing. He continued. The stone path curved sharply, and the garden came into view. But calling it a garden was generous. It was more like a graveyard. Statues filled the yard, dozens of them. All roughly human-shaped, but wrong. Their faces weren't carved, just smooth stone. Their arms were positioned like they had been reaching or clawing. Some stood, others knelt. A few leaned forward as though caught mid-lunge. Each wore something different: jackets, hats, vests. One wore a quick crate delivery shirt. His stomach dropped. He turned around. The garden gate had vanished. Only trees. Dense, choking trees. He turned back and placed the food bag on a stump, trembling. Snapped a photo with his phone. Hit complete delivery. No signal. He turned in a slow circle. The fog had thickened. He couldn't see the car. Something clicked behind him, like a tongue against teeth. He ran. Blindly, branches slapped at him from the dark. Vines curled underfoot. He pushed through a gap between two trees and hit something solid. Wood. The front door. Of a house he hadn't seen before. It opened. Not from a doorknob. From pressure. From breathing. The air inside was warmer. Not welcoming, suffocating. And then he heard it. The creak of footfalls upstairs. Someone was home. He stepped back. But the world outside was gone. Not just the path. Everything. Only black. So he went inside. Because what else was there? The floorboards groaned with every step. The wallpaper was stained. The smell was damp, metallic. The kind of place where memories rot into mold. Then the voice came. Soft. Female. Thank you for your prompt delivery. He spun. Who's there? No answer. Then movement. Something slithered across the ceiling overhead, slow and wet. He moved toward the stairs without deciding to. Something guided him, pulled him. The first step he took upward sank like stepping into meat. He kept going. There were 20 steps. He counted. The hallway above was lined with doors. Each door had a number carved into it. But not normal numbers. They looked like carvings in stone, etched with fingernails. One door stood open. Room 14. Inside was a small bed, a desk, a chair, and a mirror. The mirror showed him standing still. But his reflection was smiling. Then the smile opened. A bag emerged from the reflection's mouth. Paper delivery bag, stained with something that wasn't grease. And then it spoke. The reflection, still smiling. You're our new driver now. Caleb stumbled backward, eyes locked on the reflection. The mirror rippled slightly, like the surface of a pond. His mirrored self stood still grinning that sick, uncanny smile. Paper bag hanging from its mouth like a tongue. The bag twitched. Something moved inside it. He turned and ran. The hallway was different now, longer, warped. The doors were gone. Instead, alcoves lined the walls, each containing a framed photo. Portraits. Every single one showed a quick crate driver standing in front of 14 Sycamore Lane. Some of them looked proud, others nervous. But a few had no faces, just a blur where features should have been. His picture was already there, taken just minutes ago. He hadn't posed for it. Beneath the frame, a brass plaque, Caleb R. Order fulfilled. No, he whispered. The floor groaned beneath his feet. The walls pulsed, as though they were breathing. From the far end of the corridor, the creak of footsteps returned, slow, deliberate, heavy. He ran again, but each step took more effort. The hallway stretched, resisting his movement like wading through deep water. The lights overhead flickered with every step he took. Then the voice returned, calm, chilling. You've already been accepted. There are no returns. Caleb reached what should have been the stairwell, but found only a blank wall. The house had changed its shape, folding him in. He spun, looking for any crack in the architecture, any edge where reality might be thinner. Then the wall to his right cracked open, not as a door, but as a fissure in wood and plaster. It widened with a groan, revealing a narrow spiral staircase descending into absolute black. A smell crawled out from the hole, old blood, rotting earth, vinegar. His body moved before his brain could stop it. Down he went. The steps were soft, wet. They squished beneath his sneakers. The air was thick, filled with damp warmth that clung to his skin. Felt like being swallowed. After what felt like minutes, maybe hours, the stairs ended. He stood in a cavernous room that didn't belong beneath a house. The ceiling arched so high he couldn't see it. The walls breathed, literally. They expanded and contracted like lungs. And everywhere around him were shelves. Hundreds of them, stacked with delivery bags, each perfectly sealed. Each labeled with a driver's name, a timestamp, a short, polite thank you message. A few bags were moving. He reached for one marked Frankie M. Twitched in his hands. Cold. Wet. He loosened the staple. Inside wasn't food. Inside was a driver's badge. Folded uniform. A photograph. A lock of hair. He dropped the bag. A groan echoed through the chamber. The walls pulsed harder. And then a laugh. Mocking. Childlike. You thought you were making deliveries. You were the delivery. He spun. A figure emerged from the dark. Not the one from the mirror, this one was worse. It had dozens of limbs. Not arms, but delivery bags extended into slick, twisted tentacles, each ending in a phone or a receipt or a plastic fork fused into some kind of bone. His head was smooth, featureless, and it wore an apron, stained, old, embroidered with the Quick Crate logo. Caleb backed away. The thing didn't move, but the phones began to ring, one by one, a wave of shrill, outdated ringtones. Each screen lit up with the same word. Reordered. Caleb turned and ran again, tripping over bags, tearing through shelves. Another staircase appeared, this one leading up toward a thin shaft of white light. He didn't think. He ran. The steps groaned and cracked, but held. As he neared the top, he could hear sounds, normal sounds. Cars, wind, a dog barking. He reached a trapdoor, pushed it open, fell into daylight. He landed in grass, cold, damp. When he sat up, blinking at the sudden brightness, he saw he was back at the garden gate. The arch loomed behind him, and the house was nowhere to be seen. His car sat at the end of the path idling. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Delivery completed. $7.50 earned. Would you like to accept your next order? He dropped the phone and staggered to his feet. Every part of his body ached. He got in the car, drove straight home, and deleted the app. Or tried to. It wouldn't uninstall. Every time he held the icon to drag it to the trash, the screen froze, then blinked, then displayed a pop-up. You are a premium courier. Your shift is ongoing. He factory reset the phone. The app reappeared. The next day, a man named Darren in the next town over received an offer to join Quick Crate as a regional driver. Special incentives, higher pay, little competition. All he had to do was take orders that others had skipped. His first order? Pickup, Rose's Deli. Delivery, 14 Sycamore Lane. Customer note, use side path. Don't knock. Caleb never left Glenwood again. He got a job at the gas station. Didn't drive. Didn't talk much. But sometimes, late at night, his new co-workers found him standing perfectly still by the freezer aisle, mouth slightly open, eyes wide, hands empty, like he was waiting for something to arrive. The nightmares came in waves. Sometimes Caleb was back in the underground vault, surrounded by swaying delivery bags, their contents writhing and whispering in unison. Other times he was driving, except the road stretched endlessly forward, a single white line through pitch-black nothingness, his headlights barely illuminating the void, the rearview mirror showing only his own face smiling back at him, even when he wasn't smiling. But the worst dreams weren't dreams at all. They were the in-betweens, moments at the edge of sleep, when the darkness behind his eyelids became a projection screen for memories that hadn't happened yet. Visions of rooms he hadn't entered, meals he hadn't delivered, but would, soon. And always room 14. He stopped trying to explain it to people. At first, he'd thought he could make sense of it. He even contacted a few of the Glenwood locals who remembered past disappearances. An old man named Lester at the bait shop confirmed that yes, several young drivers had once gone missing after accepting orders too far out. But the authorities chalked it up to runaways or transients. When Caleb asked if any of them had been delivering to Sycamore Lane, Lester had gone quiet. No one should take orders that far. Sycamore don't exist anymore. What do you mean? I mean, Lester said, eyes narrowing. They tore down the last house on that road in '92, condemned, full collapse, killed a drifter inside. House sunk into the earth. But it's still there, Caleb whispered. I've been inside. Lester didn't say another word. He just shook his head, walked back behind the counter, and flipped the sign to closed, even though it was the middle of the afternoon. After that, Caleb stopped asking. But the town started noticing things. His manager at the gas station, Rosa, no relation to the deli owner, caught him sleepwalking 3 times in 1 week. Each time, he was in the stockroom, stacking bottles of water into small pyramids, mumbling to himself. When she asked what he was saying, he looked up at her with clouded eyes and replied, "They're thirsty." He didn't remember doing it. Eventually, she called a doctor. They ran tests. Everything came back normal. No epilepsy, no tumors, no history of sleep disorders. "You're clean," the doctor said. Caleb smiled. "I don't feel clean." The doctor paused. "Do you feel watched?" Caleb laughed then. A low, broken sound. "Only when I close my eyes." It was mid-December when the phone came back. He had replaced it months ago with a landline. No apps, no Wi-Fi, just a rotary phone bolted to the wall like it was 1973. But one night, as he returned from taking out the trash behind the gas station, he saw it sitting on the hood of his car. His old phone, the one he'd factory reset, replaced. The screen was on. A single notification blinked. "You missed your delivery window. Penalty applied." He didn't touch it. He walked past it, got into the driver's seat, started the car, and the phone slid across the hood and landed on the windshield. It stared at him through the glass, face down, the message still blinking. He drove home anyway. He didn't mention it to Rosa. But the next morning, the store's backroom freezer was open. The room had a new smell, like wet cardboard and boiled meat. Inside, packed neatly on the shelves, were 5 delivery bags, each with a name. He didn't recognize any of them, except the 6th, Caleb R. It wasn't there the night before. He quit that day, told Rosa he was moving. He wasn't lying. By January, Caleb had rented a 1-room shack in the hills 2 towns over. No GPS signal, no mail, no visitors, just books and canned food and silence. For a while it worked. The dreams faded. The fog in his mind began to lift. He didn't know what he would do next, but it didn't matter. He was alive, awake, free, until the food arrived. Came on a Tuesday. He woke up to the sound of footsteps on gravel. Peered through the crack in the window. A man in a red quick crate jacket walked away from the front steps. Didn't look back. A delivery bag sat on the welcome mat. Inside was a grilled chicken sandwich, still warm, and a receipt. No pickup address. No order ID. Just a note. "You've been promoted to distribution tier." The sandwich smelled so good. He threw it into the trash and bolted the door. The next day there were 3 bags. One was from Rose's Deli. Another from a Chinese place he didn't know. The third had no restaurant listed at all. They kept coming. By the end of the week, the porch was covered in bags. Flies swarmed the steps. Something inside one of the bags moved when he kicked it. He began to burn them one by one. But the ashes always returned to the porch the next morning, swept into neat little piles shaped like the Quick Crate logo. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating, but still he felt full, as if something else was feeding through him. He didn't realize how bad it had gotten until he looked in the mirror. He hadn't smiled in days, and yet his reflection grinned back. A wide, glistening smile, teeth just a little too white, mouth open, paper bag emerging. Again, he shattered the mirror, fist first. The glass didn't resist. It almost seemed to welcome the impact. Shards slid down the sink like ice melting too fast, vanishing before they could draw blood. Caleb stared at his hand, surprised to find it uncut, skin intact. But his reflection, what little remained, lingered. Tiny fragments danced in the corners of his vision, always catching light at impossible angles. He boarded the windows, turned off the generator, lived by candlelight or not at all. Food dwindled. The cans expired or tasted rotten, regardless of their date. Water came out of the taps a dull, tea-colored amber. And still, every morning, new delivery bags appeared. Always 3. Never more. Never less. Some were fresh. Others were bloated. One leaked a milky fluid that smelled like onions and ammonia. But they kept coming. He tried burning them, burying them, tossing them into the ravine behind the shack. Still, they returned. Not always at the door. Sometimes inside. Once, he found one sitting on his bed, perfectly upright, receipt facing the ceiling like it had been offered to God. Another time, he opened the toilet lid and found a bag folded tightly inside the bowl, receipt laminated to survive the water. But the worst was the night he found one in the oven, preheated. The digital display, which should have long since run out of power, glowed red, estimated delivery, 3:00 a.m. He hadn't touched the buttons. The shack didn't have electricity anymore. That night, he took an axe to the oven. The house groaned as he did. Walls trembled. A howl erupted from inside the plumbing, rattling pipes like bones in a crypt. But the bag remained unburned. He walked outside in the snow in only socks and jeans, carrying it in both hands like a cursed offering. He buried it beneath the old oak tree. By morning, the tree was gone. Not just dead, absent. Where it had once stood was a small circular slab of concrete. Stamped at the center, Quick Rate Drop Zone. Region 14. He began marking time by the number of deliveries. Days no longer had meaning. He didn't know if it was January, February, or still last year. The world became a closed loop. Bags came. He destroyed them. They returned. Then the phone returned. Again. Not his phone. A black rotary dial bolted into the wall. He didn't install it. It hadn't been there before. It rang at 3:00 a.m. sharp for 13 consecutive nights. He never answered. Until the 14th. He didn't plan to. But that night, as the bell rang, he felt himself stand, like a puppet tugged upward. He lifted the receiver. A voice answered first. Female. Same as before. Thank you for accepting your regional management promotion. He couldn't speak. His tongue felt stiff. She continued. We understand the adjustment period has been intense. Isolation is a symptom of ascension. Do not be alarmed. He gripped the cord so tightly his knuckles went white. We will now begin regional onboarding. Please proceed to door 14. The line went dead. There was no door 14. Not in the shack. Not before. But now there it was. Behind the wood stove. Where the coat hooks used to be. Pale, narrow door. Brass handle. No keyhole. Above it, etched in wood. 14. He didn't want to open it. But his hand was already turning the knob. Inside was a staircase, familiar. Soft steps. Moist walls. The smell of heated plastic and wet parchment. He descended. Again. But this time the vault was different. There were no bags. Only people. Rows of them. Standing. Mouths open. Delivery bags stretched wide across their faces like masks. Caleb staggered between them, heart pounding. Each one wore a different delivery uniform. Some were from services that had never existed. Names like GoFood, Snaptray, Newdrop, embroidered into old, faded fabrics. He turned a corner and found a table, long, endless, set for a feast. Except there was no food, only receipts, millions of them, layered like placemats, some blood-stained, some burned, others still wet. At the head of the table sat a chair made from rib bones and lanyards, and on the plate in front of the chair sat a photo. Himself, smiling, holding a bag. The caption read, Meal, Regional Coordinator. Prep time 3 years. Status, undercooked. He screamed, but no sound came out. The room leaned forward. He could feel the attention of something large, vast, older than names. He ran, back up the stairs. Door 14 was gone. So was the shack. He emerged into daylight and found himself standing in front of a strip mall. Concrete, neon, freshly paved parking lot. Children playing nearby. The sun was bright. Birds chirped. He blinked. Was it real? He turned around. Behind him stood a new Quick Crate fulfillment center. Logo freshly painted. A sign by the glass door read, Now hiring? Hungry for growth? His phone buzzed. The one he'd smashed. Deleted. Burned. Back in his pocket. A new message. Welcome back, Caleb. Let's get cooking. Caleb stood frozen in front of the building, sunlight baking down, children laughing, cars passing. The mundane world moved around him, but none of it touched him. It felt like being behind a pane of glass, close enough to see everything, too far to ever reach. He turned slowly toward the Quick Crate Center. The building gleamed with sterile perfection. Windows tinted, the logo gleaming in bright red and white, automated doors whirring open and shut with metronomic efficiency. No one else entered. No one exited. Yet somewhere within he could hear movement. Mechanical, organic, rhythmic, like breathing through vents. His phone buzzed again. Orientation in 10 minutes. Please proceed to the onboarding lobby. He tried to resist. He turned away, tried to walk, but his feet didn't move. Instead, his legs shifted automatically, one in front of the other, arms swinging at his sides like he was marching to a beat only he could hear. The world blurred. He tried to scream, but no sound escaped. His vision sharpened as he passed through the automatic doors. Inside, everything was too clean, too smooth. The walls were pale gray, lit with hidden LEDs that cast no shadows. A reception desk sat in the center, manned by no one. Instead, a screen flickered on as he approached. Caleb R., Regional Coordinator, Level 14 access granted. Then a chime. Cheerful, synthetic. A door to the right opened, revealing a hallway painted in red and white stripes. Quick Crate branding lined every inch, motivational slogans in bubbly fonts. Every meal matters. Customers come first. What we deliver, we devour. He was shaking now, but he couldn't stop. As he walked the corridor, screens embedded in the walls began to flicker on, videos of him delivering orders. All his past deliveries, overlaid with data points. Speed, 92% customer interaction, 3/5 stars compliance, 97% sentience. 28%. That last number made him pause. Sentience? Then the screen changed to a new line. Recalibration recommended. The walls pulsed. He felt it in his bones. At the end of the hallway was a door labeled FEEDB Delta CK. The A had been replaced with a triangle, pointing downward. He tried to stop. He reached out for the wall, but it was soft. His hand slid into it. It rippled like skin. He recoiled. The door opened. Inside was a small amphitheater, cold steel bleachers circling a single elevated platform in the center. On the platform, a chair. Not a normal chair. It looked like it had grown from the floor. Metal ribs fused with leather, tubing coiled up the back, a dozen thin four lines dangling from mechanical arms. He was already seated before he realized he had moved. A screen descended from the ceiling. Welcome, Caleb. Let's optimize your role. A voice, hers again, spoke in his ears. You've shown promise, exceptional throughput, but the final tier requires fusion. Are you ready to be integrated? He shook his head violently. No, he whispered, but the chair locked him in. Cords snapped around his wrists, ankles, chest. For needles slid into veins without pain. The seat reclined. A visor descended over his eyes. White light exploded in his skull. He saw memories, not his, other drivers, other lives, each one fading at the moment of promotion, each one melting into the system. He screamed, and the system absorbed it like sugar in hot tea. The voice continued. You are now Quick Crate infrastructure, regional nexus node, dispatch and intake authorized. Welcome to the hive. He fell down into blackness. Somewhere far away, in a different town, a driver named Mina accepted her first Quick Crate order. The app offered a premium rate, triple pay for her first run. Pickup, Rose's Deli. Delivery, 14 Sycamore Lane. Note, side entrance. No questions. She accepted. Her phone buzzed once. Pleasant chime. Dispatch confirmed by Caleb R. As she pulled out of the parking lot, the sun disappeared behind a low fog. Her car turned down a street she didn't remember passing. Sycamore Lane had never been on the map before, But it was there now. A glowing red pin. A message appeared on her screen. Thank you for joining Quick Crate. We're hungry. Logan enjoyed the quiet parts of the night, the hours when the city softened, when the bustle dulled to a hum and the towering skyline reflected its own sleepy glow. That's when he did his best work. Not art or music or writing, he delivered food. It was unglamorous, but he liked the rhythm. He knew how to navigate the grid better than most of his fellow drivers. He knew which buildings tipped, which ones didn't, which restaurants double-bagged their soup containers and which sent ticking time bombs of leakage and mess. It was a science, an ecosystem, a strange little ballet of motion, patience, and instinct. Logan also had a rule. No high-rises after 11:00 p.m., too many bad experiences. Customers who refused to answer their phones, broken elevators, creepy lobbies where security guards vanished between shifts. Too much wasted time and too much tension. There was something about glass towers after midnight. They didn't feel like part of the city anymore. They felt like empty machines left to idle and dream. But that night, Thursday, a chill in the air, too many cancellations to make his quota, he broke the rule. The ping came in at 10:57 p.m., right at the edge of his cutoff. He hesitated when he saw the building name, Sky Spire Tower. A new luxury complex on the edge of downtown. 57 stories. Sleek, black, all-glass exterior. The kind of place with concierge robots and valet elevators. He'd heard rumors about Sky Spire, that it was half empty, that people moved in and didn't move out, that the company that built it had gone bankrupt before construction was even finished. And yet the building still opened on schedule. He dismissed all that. Just city chatter. The order was from an upscale Thai place. 2 dishes. High-end customer. Tip already included. The delivery app, Food Fleet, flagged it as priority. That usually meant VIP status. He accepted. As he pulled up to the entrance, the building loomed above him like a needle piercing the clouds. Its top floors were lost in a thin, blue mist that clung only to this building and nowhere else. The lobby was empty. No concierge bot, no reception desk, just marble floors, tall glass walls, and a security tablet mounted beside the elevators. Logan approached. The screen blinked on before he touched it. Delivery for Unit 47C? He frowned. He hadn't entered the unit number yet. He tapped yes. Elevator unlocked. Proceed alone. The elevator doors opened with a chime. Interior mirrored on all sides, making it feel infinitely deep. He stepped in, box in hand. Floor 47 lit up without him pressing anything. The doors closed. The elevator moved fast, but not smoothly. It surged upward in strange pulses, like it was changing direction between floors without really stopping. The numbers on the panel blinked erratically. 22, 36, 41, 5, 47. Then the lights dimmed. Not dark, but darker. The glow of the panel faded. The mirrors seemed to ripple as if touched by wind. When the doors opened, a hallway stretched before him, longer than should fit on this floor. Narrow, silent, no windows, no exit signs, just carpet that absorbed the sound of his steps and walls painted the color of ash. He passed apartment doors as he walked. 47A, 47B, 47C. The door had no peephole, no number plate, just a strange marking like a sigil, etched into the wood. Angular, looping, unfamiliar. He knocked. No answer. He placed the bag on the floor, took a photo for the app. As he uploaded it, the phone glitched, screen jittering, image splitting, then returning to normal. He turned to leave. Then he heard it. The click of a lock turning. The door opened a crack. But no one looked out. A voice, low and almost mechanical, came through the opening. You forgot the drink. Logan looked at the bag. No drink order. He checked the receipt, only 2 entrees. There's no DRI. You forgot the drink, the voice repeated, this time more firmly. Logan felt a twinge in his gut. "I can check with the restaurant," he offered. Silence. Then the door opened wider. Not fully, just enough for darkness to reach the hallway. The kind of darkness that doesn't come from the absence of light, but from the presence of something else. The voice again right behind the threshold. "Come in and verify." Logan stepped back. "No thanks, man. I'm just the driver." The door creaked, the hinge groaning like it hadn't been used in years. Inside, a hand reached out. Thin, gray, not skin, not even latex, something else. It shimmered oddly. It held out a dollar bill. Folded. Logan didn't move. He felt every nerve in his body scream. That was when the hallway behind him stretched. He heard it, felt it, turned and saw that the elevator was gone. Not the doors. The whole alcove. Vanished. As if it had never existed. He looked forward again. The door to 47C was fully open. Inside was a room he shouldn't have seen. Walls not painted, but made of some fibrous organic material that shifted as it breathed. A table stood at the center, too long for the space, its surface covered in old delivery bags. Each one bore a name. He stepped forward without meaning to. The door closed behind him. The door shut with an organic thud, like muscle slapping into bone. No latch clicked. No lock turned. Just a dense finality that told Logan he wouldn't be walking back out the same way he came in, if at all. He turned toward the room, now dimly lit by a sour green glow emanating from somewhere high above. The walls pulsed. He could see them breathing, expanding and contracting slowly, like the belly of something in hibernation. Their texture reminded him of meat viewed too closely, or the translucent membrane of a reptile's egg. He held the food bag out in front of him like a shield. "Just here to deliver," he said, his voice small, swallowed by the room. No reply. The table in the center of the space stood motionless, surrounded by what looked like delivery bags. But they weren't made of paper or plastic. These were different, constructed from stitched flesh, some dark and worn like old leather, others pale and veined like fetal skin. Each had a receipt stapled to its side. He stepped closer. The nearest bag bore a name, Harriet T. One entree, one drink, one bone. A chill slid down his spine. He turned to leave. The door was gone. Not closed, gone. Replaced by a blank wall, smooth and seamless. He touched it, pressed against it, even clawed at it. It didn't budge, didn't give. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He almost jumped. He pulled it out. The screen was still glitching, but a message had appeared, flickering on and off in a staccato rhythm. Delivery incomplete. Guest verification required. "Who's the guest?" he asked aloud. The wall rippled behind him. He turned slowly. The figure that stepped from the shadows of the room wasn't human. It wore clothes, kind of. A hoodie, torn jeans, sneakers. All faded. But the form beneath was too tall, too narrow. Its arms too long, knees slightly bent backwards like an animal. Its face was a blur, not pixelated but unfinished, like a memory half recalled. And it smiled. A mouth too wide, filled not with teeth but with miniature hands. Dozens of them. Tiny fingers flexing and uncurling like they were reaching, waiting. Logan dropped the bag. The creature spoke with a voice that scratched across his eardrums. "You verified your presence. Now verify your purpose." I told you," Logan stammered. "I'm just the delivery guy." The creature nodded, as though understanding something important. "Then why were you invited?" "What?" "No one delivers here by mistake." Logan tried to back away, but the wall behind him pulsed again, warmer now, almost soft, almost like skin. The creature approached the table, picked up one of the bags. Its fingers caressed the receipt. A very important order, this one. Took years to prepare. It opened the bag. Inside was a human skull, but not bleached, not clean, still red, still wet. The creature sniffed it, then delicately licked its eye socket. Logan retched. The figure turned back to him. "You don't remember, do you?" Logan blinked. What are you talking about? The lights dimmed. The green glow deepened into something murkier, like algae blooming in deep water. The walls whispered, faint voices, too low to understand. But one repeated word stood out. Spire. The creature gestured toward the floor. Suddenly, the table, the walls, the air itself shivered. A section of the floor began to sink downward, revealing a spiral staircase made of what looked like folded delivery boxes. Their flaps locked together with melted plastic. A soft blue glow pulsed from below. Time to descend, the creature whispered. Logan didn't move, but the air thickened around him, pushing gently at his back. Like breath, he descended. The staircase led into a cavernous space beneath the apartment, a space that could not exist within the building. It was far too wide. The walls curved like a stadium, and at its center was a pit. From above, tendrils hung, some metal, some organic. They connected to dozens of suspended people, or what had once been people. They hung motionless, their limbs stretched out, mouths open, eyes rolled back. For lines ran into their arms, and pulsing sacs pumped slow streams of dark fluid into their veins. Logan stumbled back. What the hell is this? A voice beside him, calmer, more human. Fulfillment. He turned. The figure that had spoken looked almost normal. Young man, clean clothes, food fleet badge around his neck. He smiled. I was like you once. Thought I was just dropping off a pad thai. Took the elevator up, and well, he shrugged. Got promoted. Logan stared. Promoted. The man nodded toward the hanging bodies. We all serve one way or another. Some as runners, some as vessels, others as meals. He handed Logan a small plastic card. Employee ID Logan Reed, status. Escalated Logan let it fall. I want out. The man laughed. There is no out. There's only up or down. You chose this floor. Remember? I didn't. Didn't you? The man asked. That's what they all say. But the system doesn't make mistakes. He gestured again, this time toward a nearby panel embedded in the wall. It looked like a touch screen. Logan approached it cautiously. It lit up. New route assigned. Pickup. Lower level 13 delivery. Skyspire penthouse passenger status. A small mechanical cart rolled into the room behind him. On it, a sealed capsule. The glass was dark, but inside he could see movement. Something breathing, struggling, person. He turned to the man. What the hell is this? The smile never faded. Just another order. The capsule pulsed faintly with red lights, like the heartbeat of something both alive and sedated. Inside, Logan could see condensation streaking the glass. Whoever or whatever was in there was struggling. He leaned in, trying to see through the distortion, but the image swam and doubled like the capsule was half filled with liquid. Then a hand pressed against the inside of the glass. Human, slender, shaking. It slid down slowly, leaving a smear of red. Logan turned to the man beside the delivery cart. What's inside? The man tilted his head, smile unwavering. It's not about what, it's about who. Logan's voice trembled. You're delivering a person? The man chuckled softly. No, Logan. You are. He felt the floor shift beneath him, gently, like an elevator beginning its descent without warning. The walls around the chamber folded inward, compacting with mechanical groans. The staircase behind him was gone. The ceiling above now showed the mirrored interior of an elevator shaft, descending in perfect silence. He looked back at the panel on the wall. It had changed. Penthouse preparing for receipt. Proceed. Do not deviate. No, he whispered. This is insane. I'm not doing this. The man beside him said nothing. Then his face began to change. The skin sagged, warped, rippled like wax under a heat lamp. The smile stretched too wide, curling up past his eyes, splitting the skin until it peeled back in strips. Beneath, there was nothing, just meat, muscles tightening and contracting without structure. Logan stumbled back in horror as the thing fell to the floor in a boneless collapse. Then it twitched. Then it crawled, inching toward him with the slow inevitability of something that didn't need legs. He turned and ran toward the only visible exit, a thin passageway that had opened behind the capsule cart. The corridor was narrow, lined with vertical slats like ribs. It pulsed with soft red lighting, making everything swim and stretch. As he ran, the walls seemed to close in behind him, gently discouraging retreat. Then the floor lit up beneath his feet with a sequence of words. Route confirmed. Order locked. Escape voided. He kept running. Eventually, the corridor opened into a small chamber. At the far end was a window, not just glass but a view. The city, from far above. He was back in the building. Somehow, dozens of floors higher than he had been. The skyline glittered beyond the glass, impossibly clear, the air thin and vibrating. The streets below looked like thin red veins. Tiny cars, distant lights. In the center of the room was a pedestal. On it, a new food bag, pristine, white, branded with a red logo he didn't recognize. It bore no receipt, no name, but as he stepped closer, a screen beside the pedestal lit up. Deliver TO Penthouse. Suite 0X passenger transfer required note. Do not open capsule. Do not speak to occupant. Do not delay. Behind him, the capsule cart rolled into the room without sound. He stared at it, then at the screen, then at the glass beyond where the penthouse loomed above, one final tier of skyspire, an upper level not visible from the outside. He remembered stories, unfinished floors, tenants who never arrived, ritual architecture, buildings shaped not for humans but for others. He whispered to no one, "What is this place?" And the answer came not as sound but as sensation, a voice in the bones. "We consume what you bring us, and now you bring yourselves." The room went dark. Only the screen remained, pulsing softly. For minutes he couldn't stop it. He felt his arms moving, lifting the capsule. It was heavy but balanced perfectly, like it had been built just for him. He walked. The walls parted. Another corridor. This one cleaner, brighter, but colder. The doors he passed bore no numbers, just sigils etched in gold. Whispers followed him. "You've always been the courier. He's late. They're watching from the glass. The spire never ends." He reached the elevator. It opened before he touched it. The panel inside had only one button. 0X. He pressed it. The ride was silent, but he felt pressure build in his ears, like ascending too quickly in an airplane. Then the doors opened, and he stepped into the penthouse. It was vast, impossible, larger than the building's footprint should allow. Its floor was black marble, veined with silver. The walls were made of mirrors, except these didn't reflect his current self. They showed versions of him, eating, bleeding, delivering, dying. A long banquet table stretched down the center, set with plates, bowls, glasses filled with something too thick to be wine. At the head of the table sat a figure, cloaked in black. His face was a screen, glitching, flickering. 1,000 human eyes blinked from the static. "Approach," it said. Logan couldn't resist. He stepped forward. The figure gestured, and the capsule hissed. A seal broke. The glass panel lifted. Inside was a woman barely breathing, tubes running from her nose, skin pale, drawn, eyes fluttering. Logan's breath caught. He recognized her, but not from life, from his dreams, from a moment he couldn't place, from a future he hadn't lived yet. The figure leaned forward. "You are our most trusted courier. One final delivery. Complete this offering, and you will be free." "Who is she?" Logan asked. "Does it matter?" He shook his head. "No more." The figure stood. The screen face flashed violently. For a moment, Logan saw his own face reflected there, screaming. The mirrors shattered. Everywhere. A siren began to wail. A deep, low tone that reverberated through the spire. Logan grabbed the woman from the capsule. She was light, weightless. She gasped once, eyelids fluttering open. He ran. No path. No doors. Just mirror shards, smoke, and screaming. But he ran. Through spaces that didn't connect. Down staircases that twisted backward. Out of hallways that looped. Until he burst through a service hatch. And collapsed on asphalt. Paramedics found him shaking, holding an unconscious woman in his arms outside Skyspire Tower. They didn't question his story. They didn't need to, because when they tried to re-enter the building, it was gone. A blank lot, no tower, no structure, no elevator, just dust, and a receipt, fluttering in the wind. It read, "Order complete. Tip applied. Thank you for your service." They held him for 72 hours. Standard observation protocol, they said. Shock, dehydration, possible head trauma. When they found him on the asphalt, he'd been mumbling in a language no one recognized, clutching a woman whose vitals had flatlined twice en route to the hospital. Yet somehow she lived. She remained unconscious. No ID, no matching fingerprints. Her blood type didn't exist in hospital records. They called her Jane Sky. Logan was calm at first. Too calm. Didn't ask where he was. Didn't ask about the woman. He just kept staring at his hands, as if they belonged to someone else. On the third day, a psychiatrist named Dr. Marla Pearson sat across from him in a small white room and asked him to tell her what happened. She expected a breakdown, a spiral into delusion, a maze of denial and metaphor. But Logan just smiled. "There was a tower," he said, "built like a mouth, the throat. We climbed in and called it modern. And then we let it feed." She blinked. "Feed on what?" "Us." The doctor scribbled something in her notes. Logan watched her pen move. "It's not the first tower," he added. "Not even the first this year." "What was your role?" "I delivered." "To whom?" He looked up, his expression distant. "To whatever lives in the penthouse." After his release, Logan didn't go home. The police had cordoned off the scene, though they couldn't explain what scene that was. The lot where Skyspire Tower had stood was now just dirt. No foundation. Somewhere around the 7th night, he met another one. A girl. Young. Early 20s. Leaning against a gas station wall just past midnight. She looked exhausted, wild-eyed, wearing a torn Grub Hut hoodie. He almost didn't stop. But she looked up and said, "You saw it too." He nodded. She held up her arm. Her wrist was branded. Not tattooed. Branded. A symbol. The same one from 47C. "We've all been routed," she said. "Some don't know it. But we're carriers now. The food isn't the payload. We are." "Where does it end?" he asked. She looked up. Skyward. "Wherever the last floor is." He didn't see her again after that. But sometimes he finds receipts with her name on them. Violet R. Intercity transfer always fresh. Always recent. He started marking them on a map. Each receipt came with coordinates. Plotting them revealed a spiral. Tightening. Circling inward toward a center he hadn't yet seen. He's getting closer. He can feel it. His phone now updates without internet. The Food Fleet app won't uninstall. He never opens it. But it sends notifications. Tonight says, "You are within 1 mile of the final customer. Proceed to rooftop." He doesn't know what building. Doesn't remember checking in. But when he looks up, he sees a familiar glow. Green. Pulsing. A spire against the night. Waiting. The spire wasn't supposed to be there. Logan stood across the street, staring up at the gleaming black monolith. No city plans showed a building at this intersection. No public records, no construction notices. Yet there it was, rising 50, 60 stories high into the night like a needle punched through skin. Its windows shimmered, but they didn't reflect anything. No cars, no lights, just movement like shadows shifting behind fogged glass. He didn't approach immediately. He waited for his heart to slow, for his breath to stabilize, for his legs to stop trembling. Then he crossed. There was no name on the entrance, no address, just a brushed metal door with no handle, no bell. But as he stepped forward, it opened. Inside, silence. A lobby made of black stone and long red carpet, plush and perfect. Walls covered in glass panels that showed distorted versions of himself. Older, younger, smiling, screaming. In some, he wasn't human. He moved forward. There was no front desk, no elevator bank, only a single lift. His door was open. Inside, a mirror, one that didn't reflect him at all. He stepped in. The doors slid shut without sound. No buttons, just one glowing symbol on the panel. 0x. He touched it. The elevator moved upward, not smoothly, not mechanically. It felt like ascent in the biblical sense, like being pulled skyward by something massive and unseen. His stomach stayed behind. There was no sound, no motion, just climb. Then the doors opened, and he was there, the penthouse, again. But this time it was finished, opulent, glistening, cold. A banquet table stretched before him, set for hundreds. Bowls of black liquid steamed softly. Platters of indistinct meat glistened under candlelight. Tall glasses overflowed with crimson wine that didn't swirl like liquid should. It coiled. At the far end, a throne, empty, until it wasn't. The figure stepped into view not from behind, but from within the throne itself, rising out of it like oil surfacing in water, shapeless, then shaped. It wore no face, but it had features, eyes, mouths, things that opened and closed and whispered simultaneously. Logan stepped forward. He felt lighter, not calm, not at peace, just emptied. The figure reached out. In its palm, a receipt. Logan read final delivery complete tip. Integration approved. You brought yourself, it said. And she is ready. A second figure entered from the side. The woman from the capsule. Jane Skye. She looked the same, but also older, stranger. Her mouth moved, but no sound emerged. The first figure nodded. She's the tower now. What? Logan whispered. The last floor was always waiting. The floor dropped beneath his feet. Not physically, but perceptually. The room expanded outward, folding in layers like a flower opening. He saw other towers rising in cities he didn't know. Other couriers ascending. Others becoming. His limbs felt heavy. His bones filled with weight that didn't belong to him. His eyes burned. Jane reached out and touched his forehead. Everything opened. He remembered every delivery. Not just his, but all of them. Every driver. Every floor. Every tower. He remembered the tunnels beneath the towers. The false elevators. The orders that required blood signatures. He remembered what came before the apps. Before the bikes. Before the menus. When the couriers were called ushers, and the meals were called sacrifices. The spires had always been hungry, but now he was one of them. A node, a dispatcher, a living antenna tuned to the vibrations of need. He wasn't Logan anymore. Not fully. He was the route. The voice of the tower whispered in his blood. You deliver so well. Now we deliver you. Somewhere, in a city halfway across the world, a new delivery driver named Ellis checked his phone. The Food Fleet app had just installed itself. He didn't remember downloading it. The icon pulsed. A new order popped up. Pickup. Skydine Kitchen. 0x Tower Delivery. Suite 0x. Penthouse. He blinked. No way, he muttered. That's not even a real address. But the app promised double pay. He accepted. The receipt printed through his car's Bluetooth. And on the bottom, a signature in digital red. Route approved by L.R. Ellis never noticed the skyline behind him had changed. The spire was already there, waiting, and hungry,